Hi, I'm Mans.
And I'm Monica, and this is
Bras Off, Walls Down, the podcast where we give you unfiltered stories, expert advice, and absolutely zero BS.
From relationships and careers to mental health and hormones, and all the stuff we're not supposed to talk about, nothing's off limits.
So take your bra off, get comfy, lay your walls down, and let's get into it. Rolling?
We are rolling. Action.
Rolling.
What the fuck was that? I've been told that that's not action, it's this, so I've been doing it wrong. I've been doing time out the whole time.
Actually, no, I see it. You always see that as time out.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah. Excited about what we're going to talk about.
Do you know what? I think I have still so much trauma that I have decided that I will just forget and just move on from, that I found it hard to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was writing notes on this one.
Yeah, I did. Like, I didn't want to pull it all up. I was like, do you know what? I'm just surface level.
That's okay. I can take this one and you can put in what you feel comfortable with.
I've popped down a few things, but I just...
That's fine. I'm an open book. I'll unpack anything. We're talking about navigating a toxic workplace and how to protect yourself from it.
Yeah.
We've both been there. We've both done that. We know a lot of people that have been in those situations.
Yes.
So yeah, we're going to talk about that. And if your job's draining you more than it's paying you.
That's a cool thing.
That is.
Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
I like it.
Like mentally, physically, emotionally, like if it's, taking a toll, then maybe it's not just a bad day. You're actually in a space that's not healthy.
Yeah. I think we wanted to start with, because we were both chatting about what is an actual toxic workplace.
Yeah, defining it and separating.
There is, as you say, there's a bad day. There's
boss.
a shitty boss. There is a workplace where maybe you're not besties with your colleagues.
Yeah.
But that's something I personally need. If I don't have a work bestie, and actually, side note, I wrote down an idea and it said, a funeral for all your work besties. All the work besties that you have. Yeah, anyway.
I've never had them. But no, if you've got like a job that's just like, I don't know, a heavy workload, manual labour, long working hours.
Yeah.
If you all of those things.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah, like they're all things that you should just expect or be aware of before you start the job. So we're not talking about that. Because I think there's a big like culture around people not wanting to just work anymore. People don't want to put in any hard work for anything. We put in the hard work for what it is we want to do.
Yeah.
But there are people that are just like, everything is just too much, too hard to... Sometimes it is a case of toughen up.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it is a case of you're in a toxic environment and the impact that it does have on your mental health, your physical health, your well-being, your lifestyle is huge. So we want to kind of bring up our own stories and what a toxic environment could look like and how you could potentially set boundaries or get out of it. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you spend more time at work than you do at home generally. Unless you're lucky enough to have, a part-time job or something like that, you spend more time at work than you do at home with your own family. So it's really important that it be a place that isn't screwing with your mental health.
Yeah, 100%.
Or physical health.
Yeah. And I think it's something that a lot of people turn a blind eye to. And they ignore or brush it off or just take it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of these things start happening and it sort of snowballs and they're still just not willing to admit that it's the workplace. It's where you're at every day and that's taking the toll and it's time to change that. I think it's a very scary thing for a lot of people to admit. So, yeah. So what is a toxic workplace? What can that look like?
Chronic stress and burnout.
Yeah, that's a big one.
If they've got unrealistically high expectations, like they're asking you to do hours above and beyond.
With no reward from it, nothing.
No, and no, like it's not a question, it's an expectation that you're there. Like that's it. That's how the job, you want this job, you have to, that's toxic.
Yeah.
When there's no support.
Yeah, lack of support, 100%. Being micromanaged and spoken down to and like people from higher up when they are just treating people so...
like they're disposable.
Yeah, and just so clearly like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
Gossip culture.
Cliquey, gossipy.
One.
Yeah.
like the backhand bullying, and when you're sort of, it's almost like gaslighting, where you're like, well, wait, am I? Like,
yeah, and then make a question.
Yeah, and undermining.
Yeah.
Micromanaging.
Yeah, I had that one, micromanaging. I hate that. And then a red flag for like a place would be the biggest one and the most obvious one is a high staff turnover. Yeah. Like, it is, without words, just the most obvious like example of a horrible workplace. Wherever the horror is coming from, it is an example.
Yeah. A constant fear of like getting it wrong or like going to be punished. So like if you're in that environment where you just constantly feel you've got that one manager or something like that that just is constantly making you feel like you're not doing your job properly, that's probably a good sign that it's not you. Unless you can say, yeah, probably not. It's not my favourite job, so I don't work very hard at it. If you're coming to work every morning going, fuck, that's not a safe environment.
Yeah, no, 100% no. I had on here, like, what's the difference between, like, just a bad manager and a bad boss and the toxic environment as well. So, like, you've got shitty bosses, shitty management, which makes your life a bit, but again, sometimes someone would get along with that person and it is just a you problem, and, you know, you've got to learn to kind of separate yourself between that. But then I think something that came up when I thought about this was too many people upstairs. I say too many management roles, too many people delegated to very, very specific tasks that it kind of feels like you don't have any trust, like, from your employer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's definitely a red flag. So if there's like a different title and role in management for every single small area, I think that's a bit of a red flag as well. It's something that makes jobs really, really difficult. Yeah. Yeah. Because as an employee, it's like every single thing you do is being, it's almost like a way to micromanage without it being from one person. Yeah. 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 Too many bosses and people with authority. Yeah, because some people can't handle the authority.
And then sometimes, I don't know if you've, but I've been in a workplace where it feels like there's so many of those people in, you know, positions of authority. Do you feel like you're the only last fucker that doesn't have a management title?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Everything gets dumped on you. Yeah. You feel like
you're doing the job of everyone.
Shit rolls downhill. So the person at the top tells them off, then them off, then them off, and you're like, last, I'm the last fucker here. Who can I roll this down to? Yeah, literally.
But yeah, no, it just creates a very toxic environment of, I wanted to point out, if you are someone who you find every single place you go to, whether it's in the same industry or a different industry, you're getting the exact same outcome, it's time to look at yourself and how you're setting boundaries and how you're setting your expectations and how you're operating, and you're like making sure you're not just being an absolute pushover. Yeah. Because if you're the common denominator.
And there could be so many things that come into play there, whether it's, your boundaries. So if you tend to find you're getting pushed around a lot, then maybe you're not setting your boundaries.
Just use all the time.
Yeah. But maybe you need a new fucking industry.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Sometimes it is a case that you need the new industry and that job's just not for you.
You need a proper change.
Yeah. That was like me with spray painting. It was very like, I never got pushed around or boundaries crossed or anything. I was pretty hard and firm from day one because of how I was treated at the beginning, which was fucking horribly. That it got to a point where I was like, this is just the industry. This is just the industry. There's only so much I can do to protect myself and my space and my boundaries. It's time for a new industry. Fuck this. So it does get to a point where you do what you can. Sometimes the job's just not for you.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to start by sharing one of the situations you've been in?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
As I've said 1,000 times, I was a spray painter. I got into the industry, I think when I was like 14, 15. I did like a pre-apprenticeship. Learned quite quickly in the pre-apprenticeship that like it was going to be pretty brutal. I was going to be surrounded by men in workshops, male-dominated industry, all good. Got a job for a pretty high-end company, very big name. Everyone knows who this company is, and being a little 15, 16-year-old at the time when I started my apprenticeship, I was a shithead. I would say that I had a lot of attitude. I had a problem with authority. I was a troubled teen coming into an adult environment. But we had a foreman, a supervisor, who made it very well known that he just fucking hated women. He hated women. He didn't like his wife. They ended up going through a divorce. He just had a pure rage for women. And I worked with another girl. She actually submitted something through on our Instagram. And this man tried to make our life a living hell. He would scream at us, swear at us, call us names, talk down to us, pick apart our behaviour and put it towards we're being female, we're women. Oh, you fucking women, like. And it was horrid. And he definitely went for her a lot more than he went for me, because I think I set harder boundaries than she did, and she was always like, what's happening? I'm like, girl, you gotta fight back.
Yeah.
Us being like two little 15, 16-year-olds, we're like talking to each other, trying to pep talk each other about like how to deal with this man, this grown ass man that if you were doing something too slow or not the way he wanted you to do it, he would beeline for you from across this workshop and get in your face and scream. And he didn't do it very many times with me because, like I said, I was a shithead and I had a voice and I was going to fight back. And I did, and I put him in his place plenty of times because, and not in a disrespectful way, I would just say, like, you will not speak to your staff like this. And even when I saw him talking to other grown men in that same way, I would be the one to say something and be like, how do you think your workers are going to want to work when this is how you're treating them?
Yeah.
Like swearing at them, talking down to them, making them feel like utter shit. There's always conflict and confrontation happening. Where does that take your workers? Where does that leave them? Wanting to work harder and bust their ass for you? No, absolutely not. And there was actually two of them in this workshop. One of them that would always go for my work friend. One of them would always come to me. And boy, did I challenge them because I was like, hell no. Like, it's not appropriate.
I mean, you're still children.
I was a child.
Yeah.
One of them, I remember there was a conflict that happened, and he told me to do something, and I was like, yeah, okay, like I'll do it, all good. But I had something. I think I was priming something, and it was wet. I needed to get it out of my gun, otherwise it dries in your gun. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I think it was a bin, and I had a bin next to me, and I was taking some, putting it in the bin. As I was doing it, he wanted me to put the bin away. Yeah, cool. I didn't do it quick enough, so I heard my name being screamed from across the workshop, and I was like, yeah. And he got up in my face, and this man was huge, and screamed at me and told me that if I didn't listen to him or respond to him in the way that he wanted again, he was going to kick me up the arse. And that probably would have sent most tiny little 16-year-old girls. And I just, plain face, looked at him and said, that's a bit weird. Why are you going to touch my bum? The steam that came out of this man's ears. Oh my God, I thought I was going to die. He took me to head office. Head office was like, you cannot say that to a 16-year-old. And I walked out.
I'm glad that's the response because I was like, oh fuck, what's happening in this office?
But from then on, it showed me that, like, yeah, this happens. And this happens all the time to people. And it's not on. Yeah. It's disgusting. It's definitely male.
Yeah.
Industry type stuff. Yeah. I know that stuff like this happens in every industry, but it's definitely very aggressive when it comes to the male industry.
Especially that one that we're referencing, they're kind of backwards.
Yeah.
With how the relationship between men and women.
Yeah.
That working relationship.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and we could do a whole episode on just that. But yeah, that's my very long-winded story of that. What about you? Do you have any experiences that you would like to share at all?
I've got a couple. The first one, and this one's like close to my heart because it's health related. This is not something that I can help.
Yeah.
So before I had my hysterectomy, my endo and adenomyosis meant that periods were pure hell for the first 1 to 3 days. The first day I would black out in pain, usually throwing up. hallucinating. Like, it was just, I was a write-off. And I used to have to take a particular type of medication, and if I didn't take it in time, that was it. I was fucked. If I got it in time, then I might not be as bad.
Yeah.
And I could hold myself together, but otherwise it was young. And I was managing a business in Subiaco, and I was really young. Shouldn't have probably been put in this position. And I think I might have shared part of this story before. I'm not sure. But I rang her. I was already at work in Subi, and I was like, I've got to go. I've got to go now. I can feel it coming on. And for someone who's never experienced that, and I know it, even though, and this was a woman, if you've not experienced that before and you just get, I'm putting in quotation marks here, normal periods, then you don't quite understand what it is. And that meant the whole business had to close because I was the only one there. I hauled ass home. I was in my mum's car. I vomited on myself while I was driving. Don't even remember driving home. Normal, like, day or two off. When I next came back to the office, my business cards were all over the floor, everything over my desk. And this is a grown-ass fucking woman. Like, she'd just thrown everything on my desk everywhere. She was just, she never came in, so she had come in, you know, she didn't know, she had nothing, they purchased the business, so they knew nothing about it, nothing about the industry or anything like that. The husband was lovely, but yeah, the woman was not happy, and I just remember getting to work and crying because it's not something that can help. It wasn't as if I was hungover or anything like this, and this was another woman that just had no idea what I was going through, and that's fine. You know, I don't hold anything against her about that, but then being treated as if you're just the fucking lowest of low pieces of shit human being employee because you had the whole ass, otherwise I would have been stuck at work for 24 hours waiting for someone to come pick me up. It was just really, really shitty. And that's not the only workplace that I've had that. Obviously, I've worked in a male-dominated industry too. So there's been multiple times when I've had to go, I've got to go home or I can't come in. The fact that I'm even texting you right now is a fucking miracle.
Yeah.
Like, so that was a big issue for me personally. I know for anyone else that has endo or PCOS or anything like that, that creates a lot of fear and stress that you're going to constantly lose a job because there's just nothing you can fucking do. Especially back then, you know, 20 years ago, there wasn't as much awareness around it as what there is now.
Yeah.
And then one of the ones, again, from the same industry that we've been speaking about, because we've both been in it, obviously the sexual harassment.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dive too far into it right now, but just simple things that make you, and I think the biggest thing that I want to like pinpoint with this is that the remarks and what was said and everything like that, it was always twisted to make you think it was a compliment and something I should be grateful for.
And if you react, you're dramatic or
playing
it up. Or,
you know, just for instance, we were all chatting about, we had a work event the next day and it was during work hours. And we were all talking about what we were going to wear, as you do. There was a female in the room, and I think there was about 3 males in the room. One particular male who was quite known for making these sorts of remarks in public, in front of everyone about me, sat there and said, well, I have to come naked. And it's just simple. And the whole room just went silent because no one knew how to react. So I just laughed it off, as I normally do, you know, and it was just, when it's just over and over and over and over and again. And that's the biggest thing. These people, they don't realise that it's sexual harassment. They think that it's okay and that it's a compliment. You should be happy that someone is attracted to you. And I think that's the twisted thing around it.
It's usually some old man.
Yeah.
We're definitely attracted to.
And I think, you know, when we get back into sort of how we, you know, protect ourselves and cope, there's I didn't handle it. I didn't for the very large amount of years that I was in that industry. I didn't, and I didn't set the boundary. I didn't. I just let it go, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse until eventually I snapped. Yeah. And I lost my job. I lost my friends. I lost my family. I lost everything. Which is why, you know, I don't want to go too far into it, but
We had some listeners put in some stories, and it all revolved. The common denominator was these funny jokes. I put in again quotation marks. The comments, the passive aggressive, the dismissal of your voice when you do try and speak up and say something. Being micromanaged and told what to wear, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. It all revolved around that from everyone that did put something in. It was pretty much felt like I was reading the same story from the same people, but it was all different experiences.
Yeah.
And it's not right. It's not okay. And a few of these people that did share stories had said that they did end up coming out of it. They got out of it. They finally used their voice. They finally put their foot down. And I think that's what we want to go into today is, how you can finally get out of a situation like that, and that it is not okay.
Yeah.
When these situations are this extreme, you need to get out. Yeah. And then the signs as well of before it becomes extreme, what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. What it might feel like.
Yeah. 100%. Have you ever left a job with no notice?
I have started a job one day, gone in the next day and said, not for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I think you told me about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you told me about this. It's a very well-known company here.
It's a very, very well-known company. Not in the industry we're talking about.
Yeah, no, another industry
we're familiar with.
But I wanted to ask, obviously without saying what the company was, what were your red flags? What were the things that you saw that made you just be like, no?
It was the environment.
Yeah.
100%. So the first day we were like just chatting. It was just me and another female, and she carried on, I think. And like the manager of the team sort of thing. And then they showed us the room where I would be working, where she would be working. And there was 5 other guys in there, all on their phones, like... And just as I walked in, I was like, when your body just goes into that, if you were a turtle, you would be like retreating back into your shell. I was like, there is no way I can sit in here comfortably and do my job with these. Maybe one of them was nice, I don't know. But the way they were all talking and laughing, I was like, just... so that was the only time. I never left without notice. Yeah. But January I did again leave quite quickly after 2 weeks when another horribly toxic job that I actually found out. So long story short, she spent half an hour, the girl who was leaving spent half a day training me on a Thursday afternoon. Friday morning I came in, she said, here we go, the job's yours. This was, mind you, getting 300 up to 300 things ready every month. I'm trying to keep it quite generic here. And I had not a position I'd been in before, industry I've been in before, position, no. And it was the worst 2 weeks of my life.
Oh, God.
She just completely left me alone. Anytime I asked a question, it felt like I was asking her to, like, give me her teeth. Like,
I don't like that.
I just felt dumb. I felt stupid. I cried. I did more overtime than I've ever done anywhere else.
Yeah.
I was throwing up before work. I lost 2 kilos in 2 weeks. And then before we went to Bali, Hayden said, no. Just no. And I was like, thank fuck I have got your support on this one, because I felt really shitty again leaving something after so quickly. I later found out she didn't want to leave anymore. She wanted to keep her job. Oh. So I was set up to fail.
Oh, that's not very nice.
I hate when we're talking about gossip. Fucking what the industry we're in, because most of the people in the industry are bored. They've got nothing to do but gossip.
Yeah.
So when you fuck up, or you do something scandalous, it only has to be minor, but you are the topic of conversation.
At the industry week.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Days, which feels like weeks, and you are just praying for someone else to fuck up or someone else do something scandalous, so you are not the topic of conversation anymore.
It's still a thing, because Dylan and I worked at this same big company together. That's actually how we met. And we still bring things up. Like events that have happened, or things that have happened, or people have fucked up this. Oh, do you remember the time that someone fucked up this? And I'm like, oh my God, we're still talking about this because nothing else exciting happens in this industry. he was still forced to, like, I'm still traumatized about being, as an apprentice, being put with this old man. He was like, Dumbledore. Like, he looked like Dumbledore, but like Timu Dumbledore. And he had a stutter. He would shake. I don't know how he still worked. Like, I actually honestly expected that man to just drop dead at any moment. But he was a smartass if I've ever met a fucking smartass before. And I remember getting put with him as a punishment. God knows why I was being punished. And I have never had so much fun battling with someone because he was so bored. He was so bored in the industry. He was never going to go anywhere. He was going to die in that workshop. And he would say it. That's his words, not mine. And he would purposely do things to make my life hell, to make conversation, because he was bored. So it happens, yeah.
It does. Have you ever stayed in a job longer than you definitely know you should have? Like, looking back on it, and if so, what do you think kept you in the job? Because I kind of had a thought on this, and I would love to know if you sort of were on the same lines.
No.
No?
I am renowned for leaving like that.
Yeah.
Because I communicate very calmly, very subtly. I'll say things. I'll talk to her. I need to talk to her. I don't make a big deal about it. I do what I can to make the changes. And most of the time I'm that kind of person that, I don't know, people just seem to ignore when I talk sometimes, especially those who are in like management roles and stuff. They just think I'm just pulling the piss, pulling their leg. I'm not going to go anywhere. For some reason, they just think I am. So I very openly communicate and say what I have a problem with. And I don't know if that's what maybe people think is, I'm just one of those people who are just complaining and just saying things. So when I do leave, it's just up and out. And people seem to be like, oh, what? Where did they go? Where did she go? And I'm like, I told you what's happening. I told you what was going on. I told you I'm going to go. So no, I don't think
I was sort of thinking about it when we were writing down our notes, because I know I have well and truly sort of overlooked so many things, when we're talking about what it looks and feels like. There was this duality of, I knew it was wrong, but there were so many things that were keeping me there. And I think fear of the unknown.
I've got a list here of what people say. And,
I like that fear of, like, and as I said, I was with this one company for a very long time. Like, a lot of the different businesses I could go into and I would know someone there.
Yeah.
And I felt like family. And this particular business I had been in for 5 or so years. And everyone there felt like family. So even though there was this, like, duality where half of it was fucking tough and shit, and the other half was, I hung outside. These people were my family. Not only did I work with them, I partied with them, I played with them, I hung out with them. So it was really, really hard to let go of what was good, because I might never find that at another workplace. And I was scared, I'd spent so long working up to the position I had, even though I got outrightly told I'm only in the position I was because of the way I look. I knew I'd worked hard to get there, and I was like, oh, this guy, there was just all this fear around it that kept me in place. And I wonder if I didn't have friends there, if I didn't have family there, if I didn't have all the things, like, if I just gone, fuck it. And I would have just left. But that fear of the unknown, and I almost think sometimes, depending on your workplace and who you're dealing with, they make you feel like you're not going to get anything else.
Yeah, they definitely they play to the emotional.
Yeah, you're never going to find anyone like this. You get to do this. How, like,
we'll touch on that in a second when I go through like a couple of tips, but there is always something else out there. And people are very good at making you feel like that is end all be all. It's not. But then you think about like financial fear, like people are like, they need the comfort of the finances, like, and that's so obviously why. Like, I get that 100%. Like, your comfort, feeling the shame, like all of those things. And then if you think of all of those things together, that is your life when you think about it. Like, that's the place you go to every day that gives you the money to be able to survive. Like, it's very valid that they're the things that hold people back and keep people working for these shitty places. What you just asked me actually with, have you ever stayed in a job long enough? Like beyond what you should have. And I think that goes into one of my points is when you're in an environment, a work environment, and you start questioning some things, I think I'm very good at removing the emotional from it. And I think that's definitely a huge thing to do if you are in that situation, because people in these toxic environments will play on your emotions 100%. So if you can separate like your emotion and look at what you're doing, do you still have the passion for it? Is this job actually something you like doing? And is it the environment that's impacting you and the people, not the job? So if you can take yourself back, have a look at your environment, take the emotion away and be like, right, I'm a chef. I love being a chef. I've got a passion for being a chef. It's long hours, it's hard work, it's like very manual labour, like it's work. They can be negatives, but if I love what I'm doing, they're not going to be. But I also have someone screaming in my face, treating me like shit, people are gossiping about me, like this is a horrible environment. Okay, so it's the environment. So you need to take yourself away from that environment because it's not the job. But if you think that the other elements are what the problem is, then it's the job and you need to change careers or go down a different path, whatever. Yeah. So I think that's like a one way that you can analyze your situation if you are questioning it.
Yeah. Don't shit about that. If you love your job but you hate the people, and you actually say you like the chef, say you love the restaurant you're at, you love your customers, shitty people, you have to leave.
You don't have to. There's things you can do.
No, I know. Yeah. But in our experience,
100%,
that generally, if there's 3 shitty people and you, they're going to be like, well, I'm not getting rid of 3 people.
Yeah, no, and yeah. They
quite often,
that comes from management.
If you speak up, it only makes the situation worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then they know you've got a problem with them.
Oh, yeah. So if that isn't an option, but have you got anything you want to jump in with that?
No, that's good. No.
If that's not an option, then that's when you can start slowly, like you've established that it's the people, you want to stay at the place, then I would suggest learning how to use your voice. Slowly, small doses, again, take the emotional out of it because they can use that, they can manipulate that. And that's when you start, speaking up and saying things and questioning what's happening and questioning why someone's speaking to you like that. Yeah. So instead of someone screaming at you, you have every right to turn around and say, hey, we'll have this conversation when you're willing to speak to me respectfully. I'm going to get back to my priority, the job I have to do, the thing I'm focusing on, and we'll get back to this conversation afterwards.
And even if you, because I know confrontation can terrify the pants off people. So even if you're not in a position where you can do that yet, find your safe person to speak to. Mm-hmm. So if there is someone at work that you can speak to about that, because, confidence can sometimes come when you're voicing out loud, and whether that's someone in HR, whether it's someone else in your team, like you and, the other young girl at your apprenticeship. But if you've not quite got the confidence to speak up,
100%.
because you're terrified of what the reaction will be, find that safe person and start it there.
My other bit of advice is email, because anything in writing, especially through an email, don't text it, that's unprofessional.
Yeah.
Email and speak up. Don't have to be ruthless and rude and brutal. You have every right to write a formal email. It doesn't have to be long, just a short one. Just be like, hey, what's up with this? Is something going to change about this? Hey, I've noticed this.
Yeah.
Can we address this? Can we have a chat about this? Can we meet up and talk about? Just send an email. Send an email. I've told people to do this a few times. Just put it in writing, and that comes down to documenting the things that are happening.
Yeah.
I've
got that on my list to document it all.
Because you've got like everyday toxic workplaces, and then you've got the more extreme cases, which I think we've talked about some of the extreme situations that you can end up in. So if you are in an extreme situation, but you are feeling a bit stuck, you don't have a game plan yet, you don't know what to do, document the shit out of everything. Write it down, date it, timestamp it, talk to someone who you do trust in that workplace and let them know what you're doing, and even have them back you up when you are documenting things. Just document.
Yeah. That was literally on mine. Document everything. Emails, conversations, incidents.
Yeah. And then learning to say no, learning to say that's not a part of my job role. I'll get to this after this is complete. Like, if you've got people that are like micromanaging. I've gotten here, like, saying no to things like overtime, if you're not going to get paid for it, or if it's outside of your contract and stuff like that. Like, you have every right to say no. Like, there's no reason why you can't.
No.
They'll guilt you. If they threaten you with your job, well, that's the red flag in itself, because they have no right to do that. That's unfair dismissal. So, know your rights. If you have to, I've done this plenty of times before. Pull that fucking contract apart. I've done this multiple times because I've had to, or I felt like I've had to. Again, it's another thing you have the right to do. In extreme cases. I'm not talking about like the more of the surface level things, but if you feel like this is going to be something that's very negatively impactful on your life, or it could ruin everything, these are the things you can do.
Yeah.
100%.
And you can even start small with saying no, because I know it can feel scary, especially if you've been a yes.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of our listeners are women, but if you've been a yes lady or a yes man, if that is being your identity and people use and abuse that because they know they can, just start with something small. Just practice actually saying no so you get used to it, because I know going straight in when they ask you to do that big thing that you fucking hate doing, but you can't say no, that first no is really terrifying, because it can be jarring.
So rewarding.
It is. But it can also be like there's so much fear around
100%.
that. So just start with something small, like just the smallest thing. Like, do you want a coffee today? No, I'm not.
Just something stupid.
Just to get yourself practicing, and actually so they get used to you saying no. So it works on both parties.
100%. Yeah. And create an exit strategy. Don't just stay. Because, and this goes to what you were saying before about people making you feel like you're never going to get that opportunity again or that same place again. Personally, I'm someone who has my resume up on Seek, Indeed. It's been on there forever and it will get updated every year, even if I work for myself. But it's always there.
Just in case you get sick of your own work environment.
Maybe I will get sick of my boss.
Bitches and pay me enough.
No, but you never know until you try. And you don't put yourself out there, you don't know. And I actually went through this with my partner recently, where I said to him, like, we had a conversation. He was like, I want more, I want to do more, I want more out of this. And I was like, well, you're not going to know unless you try. So we put together, updated his resume, we put it out there, and what do you know? Like, things popped up left, right, and centre that I never thought he would get the opportunity to do. And he even got to the point where he was turning down offers that were absolutely incredible because he had his pick of the litter by the end of it. You do not know unless you give it a go. And another big one that I say, especially as a PT, who you work for yourself, you don't. You end up working under a gym, other people. You are interviewing your employer just as much, if not more, than they're interviewing you. Yeah. And I think that's where, like, that's the biggest thing, I think.
Because how many times in an interview, they're like, have you got any questions for us? And you're like, no. Like, so many times back on our jobs, I'm like, God damn it. And I did in later years.
Yes.
But
any time that I've had an interview where I've ended with that, that's when I've said no to the job. Because I've been like, I either didn't feel safe enough to answer the questions, they did all the fucking talking. Sometimes it was a case of they answered them before I got to ask them, and I was satisfied enough with the answer to be like, okay. But you have every right to go in there and say, I've got kids, pick up, drop off time is this. These are the hours that I need to work. I don't appreciate being contacted outside of work hours, so is this an expectation? I am unable to do overtime on this day, and this day, but this day I can. Is there overtime? This is how much I want to get paid. What's your staff turnover? Like, you can ask all of those questions, and people are so scared to. Yeah. Like, anytime someone's like, good luck with the job interview, I'm like, you're the one interviewing, not them. You're doing the interview because it's your life. Yeah. You're making them money. Yes, they're paying you. That's all right. They have to pay you.
Yeah.
And you need the job, but you're going to be spending so much time there, and it's going to affect all of these elements in your life if you don't get it right. So put your boundaries in on day one, and if they don't like you because of the questions you've asked, that's the red flag again.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't answer the questions the way you want them to, well, that job's not for you. There's going to be a place that meets your expectations.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's definitely like a preventative
Yeah.
to get you out of these situations before they happen.
Yeah. Problem is, it's like dating someone, isn't it? Or there's always that honeymoon period. So there's that first few, you know how you are on probation with them? I always think it should be the other way around as well. Like you're both. So I'm probationally working for you.
Yeah.
If after 3 months it's not for me, we're both allowed to exit.
I think 100%. I feel like if you went in with that mindset, you'd probably get a lot further as well. Being like, this may not be it. Because you both go through a honeymoon period. You and the 3 months will go through busting your ass to prove yourself and show yourself. Sometimes those people fall off and then you're just like, nah, I've got the job now, I'm secure, whatever. But they will also make you feel like the sun shines out of your ass for the first 3 months and promise you all of these things and sell you a dream. And then when the 3 months is over, they're like, nah, who cares?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Because everyone's got their best personalities on
Yeah,
show.
it is like dating. It's literally dating. The first date might be absolutely amazing and they love bombing you and they shower you with gifts and they make you think that everything's going to be beautiful.
All of a sudden, 5 weeks later, you're getting yelled at for something you didn't even fucking do and you're like, oh, hang on a minute.
And they're sleeping with someone else. They got 7 girlfriends. It could turn to shit. Yeah. So there's things that you need to do. And I think it all comes down to the one thing that I would say, literally for once I have like one major bit of advice, use your fucking voice. Through email, verbally, whatever it is, whatever it looks like, use your voice.
That's what I wish I had done. If I could go back to the 23, 24-year-old me, so like what, a year ago?
Yeah.
I think that laugh was too hard.
Sorry.
If I could go back, I wish I had set boundaries and said, hey, you can't say that to me. Or, hey, that's not nice. Or, hey, just like right at the initial stages.
Yeah.
Because especially
straight away.
Exactly. Yeah. If you stay, and that was one of the things that I used to get people say to me, oh, I can say that to you because we know each other so well. Because I've been in their group 17 years and I'm like, oh, yeah, you can. It's hilarious. Thank you. Yeah. But there was no line. There was no boundary. I'd let it go for too long. I felt like there was nothing I could do. I felt helpless.
Yeah.
And I felt even worse because I'm old enough to know better. So if I could go back to myself and say, put those boundaries in place straight away.
At the interview.
Yeah.
When you're interviewing your boss.
Because I know what it's like. So whether it's the overtime thing, whether it's sexual harassment, whether it's gossip, no matter what it is, like if you don't want to be involved in something, if you're in a new workplace and someone comes up to you and goes, "Did you see what Monica did? It's pretty fucking hilarious, right?" You'd be like, "Oh no, I didn't. Sorry." Like, you know, just don't engage. Yeah. Like from day dot. Like
and if you respect your own boundaries, people will respect them. They'll have no choice to.
Yeah.
Like they'll be like, "Oh, this person's got boundaries. Okay, I'm not gonna." And you can be known as like the prude or the one that's not fun or the party pooper. Cool.
If that
means, I'd rather that.
Yeah, if that means you're going to have a safe work environment that you're not going to stress out about because you're not in the line of fire for gossip, or you don't mess around with them, so you're not mess around like physically, just like no banter or anything, so you're not in a position to be sexually harassed or whatever it is. At least then you can go in, do your job, have a pleasant time, have your work besties if they're there. I fucking go home.
I think I've just had "don't fuck with me" written across my forehead. My working career.
I wish I'd had that.
Don't do it.
Wish I had that. You're not crazy. If you're thinking, oh, this feels toxic, it probably is.
Yeah.
Probably is. So make yourself a plan financially, emotionally, practically.
And look within as well.
Yeah.
Make sure you're doing things to protect yourself and set those boundaries. And we're not putting it all on the workplaces, because there can be some common denominators in the situation.
And sometimes, you've got your owners who are perfectly lovely and fine, and then it's all the people here.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even your managers, it's the people that you actually work with. It's just fucking, it can be fucking anyone. But yeah, make sure you're not the toxic person first.
Oh yeah, that too, yeah. 100%. But yeah, hopefully that helps somewhat.
Or at least just gives you a little reminder to just, if you're feeling shitty at work, take it back to basics. As Monica said, what is it? That's the problem.
Yeah. And then action.
Action.
I'm out, apparently. This is action. Closing out. On action. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you loved this episode, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss a chat.
And we love seeing where you're listening. Tag us in your stories at Bras Off Walls Down and let us know your favourite takeaway.
Got a question or a topic you want us to cover? Slide into our DMs. We love hearing from you.
See you next time.